Hi there, I'm Graham Lewis, and in this video we're going to solve algebraic equations involving fractions when we have a fraction equals a fraction and the unknown, like you can see in that example there, has the x in the denominator, the bottom part of the fraction. So the first thing I want to just talk about what a reciprocal is. So what is a reciprocal? The reciprocal is when you do 1 divided by whatever you're doing. So if I imagine I had the number 3, the reciprocal of 3 is 1 divided by 3, or 1/3. Now what happens when we have a fraction and we take the reciprocal? Let me show you. Let's imagine we have 2/3 and I do 1 divided by 2/3, which is the reciprocal. So 1 divided by 2/3. Which I could have written as 1 divided by 2/3 like that as well. But I think for this case, I like it like this, because we know that when you divide by 2/3, that's the same as multiplying by 3/2. And you get 1 divided by 2/3 is 3/2. So notice what happens when you take the reciprocal of 2/3. It becomes 3/2. So when you take the reciprocal of a fraction, the fraction just flips over. And you could do this generally and swap the 2 for an A and the 3 for a B. So if I do 1 divided by A over B, which is the reciprocal of A over B, that's 1 divided by A over B, which is the same as 1 times by B over A, and we see we get B over A. So the reciprocal of A over B is equal to B over A. So we're going to use this idea to solve this linear equation. Now I'm going to show you how to do the reciprocal of both sides, because when you have x's on the bottom, it's never very nice. It's a bit grotty. So what we can do is take the reciprocal of both sides. What we're really doing is 1 divided by the left-hand side. I'll just write that over here. 1 divided by the left-hand side equals 1 divided by the right-hand side. So we know that if we do 1 divided by 3/2x, it's the reciprocal of a fraction, so the fraction flips. So it's 2x over 3. And remember, when you're doing the balance method, what you do to one side, you do to the other. So the reciprocal of -4/5 is -5/4. So that's always step 1. And this is really, I'm showing you here, an algorithm approach. So step 1 to solving these kinds of equation is take the reciprocal of both sides. And I'm just going to write that down there. Now, of course, when you're doing an algorithm approach, what we're really doing is what Al-Khwarizmi, the famous Persian mathematician who was in the area of Khwarizm and Baghdad, around that area, what he worked. And that's where algebra comes from. Algebra is an Arabic name. So we're going to take the reciprocal of both sides. So nice to get a bit of history there and appreciate our Arab amazing mathematicians. So now there's different approaches in solving 2x over 3 equals -5/4. If you know how to solve 2x over 3 equals -5/4, fast forward to the end of the video and see if you got it right. If not, I'm going to show you one approach. This is one approach which lots of my grade 8 students are enjoying, and it's to find a common denominator. So make a common denominator. Now this is not the only approach, but if you make a common denominator using equivalent fractions, something nice happens. So what does 3 and 4 both go into? The smallest one, and 12 is the answer, isn't it? So I'm going to write this a fraction as 12. Let's do the -5/4 for you first, because that will be a nice revision of the number. So if you remember, what you're doing is we're taking the fraction 5/4, or -5/4, and we're going to multiply it by 1. But the 1 is going to be a magical 1. It's going to be 3/3. And so I multiply the top and the bottom of the fraction by 3, and I get an equivalent fraction to -5/4, which is -5/12. Remember, it's equivalent because really you're multiplying by 1, because 3 divided by 3 is 1. So when you multiply the top by 3 and the bottom by 3, remember you get an equivalent fraction, -15/12 there. Now we're going to do the same idea with the 2x over 3. Now, obviously, I take 2x over 3, and to get 12 on the bottom, I'm multiplying by 4/4. So I get 2x times 4 is 8x, and 3 times 4 is 12. So 2x over 3 is equivalent to 8x divided by 12. Now, why do we want to find a common denominator? because now using the balance approach, we can multiply both sides by 12. So we can use the balance approach to get rid of divided by 12 on both sides by multiplying both sides by 12. Now, generally I don't show my working, but I'll show the working here in bracket just for explanation, but I wouldn't really show this step. 8x divided by 12 times 12 equals minus 15 divided by 12 times 12. And obviously dividing by 12 and timesing by 12 cancels. And I generally don't show that. I go straight from this line. I cross out the 12, cross out the 12, because in my head I know that when you multiply everything by 12, you'll get rid of the dividing by 12s. Now this method only really works in this way because it's a fraction equals a fraction. So we end up with 8x equals negative 15. And we're nearly there. Now we need to divide both sides by 8. So 8x divided by 8 equals negative 15 divided by 8. Obviously the 8's cancel, I'm left with 1x. How many times does 8 go into minus 15? It goes in once, and the remainder is 7. So I've got minus 7 eighths. And it's nice to realise it as a mixed number because we know on the number line that here's negative 1, here's negative 2. So minus 1 and 7 eighths is roughly quite close to another number, negative 2. Obviously, if we split that into 8 bits there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I've done a bit more, but that's okay. So, just to go over how to solve a fraction equals a fraction when it's on the bottom is 1. Take the reciprocal of both sides. 2. Make a common denominator. 3. Multiply by the denominator. That will get rid of it. And 4. Solve the final equation by multiplying. So that's the algorithm approach of solving these types of equation. Okay, I hope you find that helpful. Now you want to try one on your own, so I'm going to put one here for you. So let's do 4 over 3x equals minus 2/3, and I'm going to pause the video, try that yourself, and then I'll really quickly go through it. Okay, here we go quickly. So we take the reciprocal of both sides. 3x over 4 equals minus 3 over 2. I make a common denominator. This time I'm going to make a common denominator of 4. So I don't need to change the left one. I just change the right one to minus 6 over 4. I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. The 4's cancel. I end up with 3x equals negative 6. I divide both sides by 3 and I get negative 2. Okay, I hope you got that one correct. Good luck everyone with your algebra fractions. The more you practice them, the better you will get.